There are many, many martial arts classes and self-defense courses that don't seem to even have a clue as to the degree of a game changer that adrenaline is. Once adrenaline hits your system, everything changes. It changes your vision, your hearing, your control of your fingers. It doesn't just change your blood pressure. All right, so in this lesson, what we're going to do is we're going to look at some of the things that happen when adrenaline hits your system. For a start, we understand that it doesn't take very long from the moment of a perception of a stress to the actual activation of the sympathetic nervous system. When your survival skills are activated, adrenaline hits, and when it does, it hits pretty hard. Not everything that it does is a good thing, especially in a situation where you need all of your abilities together. So let's start off with heart rate in the psychological effects of combat from a study by Grossman and Seidel in 1999. They listed the following. One of the things that they said, they listed 60 to 80 beats per minute. That's your normal resting heart rate. World-class athletes actually have a heart rate that's even lower than 60 beats per minute, but 60 to 80, your average normal person. All right. When we start to hit 115 beats per minute, that's when your fine motor skills start to deteriorate. Fine motor skills have to do with, like finger work, you're not going to be signing a check in the middle of a self-defense situation anyway. So you might think, okay, well, 115, that's not that big of a loss. Well, you're going to cruise right by 115 beats per minute before you even know what happened. From 115 to 145 beats per minute, that's your optimal complex motor skills. Your body is working at a peak right there. When you get beyond 145 beats per minute, your complex motor skills start to deteriorate, and they seem to do this pretty rapidly. When you get to 175 beats per minute, your cognitive processing starts to deteriorate. That means you're slipping out of the cool centers into the hot centers of your brain, and you're starting to think like a monkey or a puppy. Your only concern starts to be survival, and you're not even rationalizing it in that type of a language. You also start to lose peripheral vision. You start to lose depth perception. You start to lose near vision. A lot of studies have shown that at this stage you find auditory exclusion. Your ears are kind of closing up. When we get beyond 175 beats per minute, that's when we get to the stage of irrational fighting or fleeing. This is not going to be anything that looks like a kung fu movie. This is going to be just wild flailing of the arms and feet as if you were being attacked by a wild animal. You also get vasoconstriction at this point. There's probably a survival mechanism to help you not bleed to death so fast. You also got cortisol flowing through your blood that kind of thickens everything up a little bit. At this stage, you also have the lovely voiding of the bladder and the bowels. Makes it a little bit more difficult to fight if you need to, but the thing that you have to understand is that when adrenaline hits, your heartbeat goes through the roof. They say that, like in a typical person, your blood travels about 7 miles to go through all the veins and capillaries through your body. When adrenaline hits, when the stress hormones hit, you got epinephrine, norepinephrine, cortisol, you've got all these things floating in you. They are vasoconstrictors, and they squeeze the blood right out of the small, capillaries. That's why a person under stress, their face turns pale. That's part of why your fingers don't work as well when this stuff starts flowing. You cut off about a mile out of that 7-mile flow. So obviously the blood pressure goes up through the roof as well. Another study that I want to talk about is the deadly force encounters by Dr. Alexis Artwell. There was a study done on police officers that were engaged in firefight. 84% of them experienced diminished sound, the auditory exclusion that I mentioned earlier. 79% of them experience tunnel vision, narrowing of the peripheral vision. You tunnel vision because that it is a survival tool, but at the same time, when you're in the city and you're trying to get away from a mugger or something like that, I suppose it's probably a pretty bad thing to have happen. You have 74% went on autopilot, meaning they were just doing exactly what they were trained to do without actually thinking about their actions. 71% said that they had visual clarity through the event, which that's awesome. But we're not all going to get that. 62% experienced slow motion time. That sounds like a good thing in the middle of a fight, except for the fact that you're kind of caught in the same mess. You're not moving normal speed while they move slow motion. You're all moving slow motion. And so what's happening is the brain is just grabbing every single detail of the situation so that if you survive, should this ever happen again, you've got new information inside there to help you react even faster. 52% had memory loss for all or part of the event. That's not good when it comes to time to tell the police what happened. So be aware that that's one of the things that you can face. 46% didn't remember the actions that they took themselves. They didn't remember their own part in what happened. 39% experienced dissociation, the feeling of standing on the outside and watching this happen like it's on TV or in a movie or something like that. 26% had intrusive thoughts, intrusive distractive thoughts. Weird things pop into your head in the middle of a crisis, and they don't necessarily have anything to do with the task at hand. 21% had memory distortion, and 7%, now these are trained police officers, but 7% experienced temporary paralysis, the freeze that I mentioned earlier. These things have to be considered. Adrenaline is a game changer, but it doesn't change everything in your favor. It kind of creates a big mess. As I said before, if a wild animal jumps out of the bushes, you need to be able to drop into the hot centers of your brain. You need to make an instant decision, even without cognitive thought. You need to make that instant choice of, am I running or fighting? If I'm running, I need to be running now, not thinking about where should I run. It just happens. It's irrational. But again, we deal more with human predators now, and we deal with social violence situations. So be aware that this stuff exists, but at the same time, it's not under your control. You can influence adrenaline. We'll get more into influencing the uncontrolled later, but understand that these things exist, that they're real, and that not everything that it's going to do is going to be a good thing for you.